You were created to stand out, to be exceptional, to be unique by design. So welcome to Exceptional Living. Well, hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Exceptional Living. I'm your host, April Ripley, and I'm so excited about our special guest today. But I want to first take a moment and thank everyone who has liked, shared, and subscribed to our YouTube channel, because you are making a difference in your communities, your nations, and the world, and we're excited to be a part of that. As you know, our vision here at Exceptional Living is to inform, to inspire, and to ignite the greatness that lives in you. And how do we do this? Well, we love to share life-changing concepts, strategic insights, intentional tactics, and proven tools from local and global thought leaders, renowned experts, innovators, and multi-hyphenate creatives. These teachings, these impartations, these stories will help to equip and empower you for influence, enlarge your competency, and certainly leave indelible impact in your field, your industry, community, nation, and the world. And in a world where one is conditioned to just fit in, know that you, yes, you were created to stand out, to be exceptional, unique by design. And our special guest today is certainly the exception to any conditioning to just fit in. Wendy Eley Jackson. As founder and executive producer of Auburn Avenue Films, Wendy Eley Jackson translates creative currency into business strategy. A native of Atlanta, Georgia, woohoo, she brings 30 plus years of television, broadcasting, and film experience to the industry. She's a graduate of the University of California at Berkeley with a BA in English Literature and an MFA in screenwriting from the University of Georgia. Wendy's vast experience in film and television industry spans from SONY Pictures Television, where she developed made-for-television movies, advertising, marketing with Turner Broadcasting, developing TV pilots for major studios and networks. Most recently, she's received the prestigious Producers Guild Mark, p.g.a, for her producing work on the critically acclaimed and award-winning feature-length documentary, MAYNARD, directed by two-time Academy Award nominee and six-time Primetime Emmy winner and Peabody recipient, Sam Pollard. Wendy served as executive producer of feature documentaries Welcome to Pine Lake and Carterland, the official documentary of President Jimmy Carter. Currently, her production company has completed the short doc, The Invitation, and now is in the festival circuit. She is currently filming several productions, such as Protect and Serve with Martin Luther King III, Calabasas Films. Wendy is co-writer of scripted limited series Ella in Maryland, and recently, and it's coming up in the month of August, First Kiss for the Hallmark Network. Wendy is a true believer in the power of collaborative storytelling. Her company, Auburn Avenue Films, has become a go-to curator for content creation developed out of Georgia into Hollywood. Wendy is a lecturer at the University of California, Santa Barbara, where she teaches basic and advanced screenwriting for TV, contemporary screenwriting, creative writing, and film as literature. She is the wife of Maynard Jackson III and the proud mom of two beautiful children, Amber and Joshua. Exceptional Living, please welcome our very special guest today. It's Wendy Eley Jackson.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Oh my goodness, we are so honored to have you today. You are just phenomenal. What can we say?
Well, listen, I've got to try to keep up with folks like you. They say you don't have to keep up with the Kardashians. You just need to keep up with April Ripley.
Oh my goodness. I appreciate that, Wendy. And I know that you've been doing some phenomenal things. And we are certainly just honored to have you today, all the way from sunny California. I hope today is sunny.
Today's sunny. Today's
Good,
sunny.
good. So, Wendy, your life is certainly, I think, what exceptional living is all about. You inform, you inspire, and ignite not only the next generation, but you do this in a creative, really a multi-hyphenate creative way of communication. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get involved in filmmaking?
My senior year in undergrad at UC Berkeley, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. And I think I quickly realized that that wasn't necessarily my dream, but that was my father's dream for me. And as much as I love my dad and I wanted to make my dad proud, I did not want to be in another classroom with no windows. Um, I wanted, I had a professor at UC Berkeley named Dr. Janet Edelman. She's no longer with us, but I went back to her and I said, I don't want to go to law school. Like, I hadn't in law school. I don't want to go to law school. I just I want to do something else. And so she said, what is it that you could do that you feel like you could do all the time, work 80 hours at it a week? And I said, oh, I said, you might judge me and make me feel like I'm a bum, but I could do television and film, anything, be it production or writing or whatever. I didn't know where necessarily I was able to fill in at the time. And mind you, I'm just 22 years old. I'm almost 54 now. But so my first job, I was a temporary assistant at Sunset Gower Studios. And that's the Norman Lear's office was there. So if you think about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was being filmed there by NBC. But when you think about Norman Lear, you think about All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Good Times, all of these different shows that Norman had put on in the 70s. And so I was a temp there for about 2 weeks before I landed on the desk of a woman named Helen Verno, who was the executive vice president of TriStar TV and Columbia Pictures TV, of course, were owned by Sony, what we now know as SONY Pictures Television. They were owned by Sony then, but they weren't one, they were two separate groups under a guy named John Feldheimer, who's now the chairman of all of Lionsgate. Actually built Lionsgate to what it is today. But it was then I knew I really, really loved. I've always been a cinephile. I've always been on the, I guess, the critical thinking of how cinema and media are influencers in the way we live. I've always understood that story has the ability to build bridges of understanding and tolerance and empathy and respect. And I believe that story helps us make sense of our lives and the lives around us. So I just knew that the time had come to use that infinite power of story, if you will, expressed through entertainment to and performing arts, let me say that, to inspire social impact. And so that's been my journey. And I've done everything now. I have written, directed, I've produced, have not been in front of the screen. And I'm too fluffy now to want to do that. I do understand what that camera does to you, and I'm not going to let it do it to me. So not yet. But that's it. And I've been out here at University of California, Santa Barbara now, moving into my 5th academic year. And I'm very proud of the students. I've got one student that's now working with Martin Scorsese. I've got another student that reached out to me. I've put a lot of people in the MFA programs, NYU. AFI, USC, UCLA, giving them their first jobs with NBC, HBO. And I think that's what I'm the most proud of, is seeing my students and watching them excel and do well. I know that was a long answer, but
No, it's so much to unpack in that, Wendy, because you start off with something that I think a lot of people who are watching experience, right? It is discovering what it is that you love to do.
mhm,
And I don't know if the word is compare, but uh, juxtapose to others' expectations for you.
yeah,
And making sometimes the hard choices, the people that you love the most, who you know want to see you succeed, want to
right,
see you do well, and they also see different facets of you, and they say, oh, you'd be great at doing this, you'd be great at doing this. But sometimes you have this little kind of, eh, I really like doing this,
right,
prefer. It's just what you feel. And yes, knowing how much you loved your parents and certainly, your father, and to say that I want to tell stories,
yeah,
the power of storytelling to connect.
mhm,
And I have seen the Maynard documentary, which is very well done
thank
with
you.
yourself and Mr. Pollard. And film does, as you said, it connects us to so many emotions.
Yes,
And I think it draws, as you said, the humanity, the
mhm,
commonality of all of our humanity,
right,
regardless of language, regardless of, ethnicity, race, age. We've
mhm,
all felt different emotions,
mhm,
either directly or indirectly through people that we interact with.
right,
And interesting that you said that one of your greatest things of all your accomplishments is that you're helping other people
yes,
to pursue their desire. Um,
absolutely.
how has the storytelling and the teaching collaborated together? I think that's a great collaboration to the results that you're seeing now with your students.
Well, as our world has become more complex and challenging, artists, scholars, educators, industry leaders are realizing the true value of social impact, entertainment, storytelling, not in just in terms of moving and changing people from all walks of life, but by creating really deeper meanings and connections for all of us. Um, I think the bottom line for me has been you can do well and do good in life, right? And so there is something, very surreal and um, divine when you plant good seeds in other people and watching a student go from saying, I don't know anything about how to build story. And I always say, you're always telling stories. All I'm doing is going to implement Aristotle's structures. And Joseph Campbell gave us the monomyth of how you tell stories. And this is nothing new. This is over 3,000 years old, right?
Mm.
So I'm always urging the students, you want to make sure that your audience walks away with a clear understanding of the steps that they could take. There's a difference between uh, theme and message, and the difference being themes are universal. Doesn't matter, what God you serve or who you choose to love, they're universal themes. I want a better life for me and my kids. That's a theme, right? Do good, don't do evil. That's a thing. But messaging is quite targeted, right? The message could be here. You go to jail for a long time for armed robbery, right? That's not a theme. That's just a message. So, um, I take a lot of time. It's something that I'm doing to later on today. Is I am recalibrating my syllabus and creating ways for my students to really excel, to find their own voice, to teaching them how to focus on story, know whatever their issues are, find those best partners to help you bring those stories to life. How do you want to think about distribution? How can you evaluate, learn, and share your gift with other persons? So I think I've been pretty successful. I got a chance to read some unsolicited letters about myself to several of the deans here at UCSB, and I think that's my legacy. My legacy is not what the masses can see via streaming or broadcast, but my legacy is seeding others so they can tell the stories that they want to tell.
I love that, the legacy. But let's unpack some things, because everyone knows that I'm always taking notes, because as we're watching, I'm learning as well. And I love that you said learning and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about that you can do well and you can do well in life. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do well, you can do good things, and then you can also reap the rewards of doing good things, right? That's built, that is universal. Like what you do comes back to you. The golden rule: do unto others, you have them do unto you.
Right.
These are universal themes, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it well. We're always telling stories. And Wendy, I thought about it because as you were speaking, I'm thinking, isn't storytelling the oldest really form of communication?
It is.
From who forefathers were to enculturation, right? How culture, how we continue certain foundations of culture, certain rituals, behaviors. This is often done by storytelling when you're young, when you get up, I'm thinking of your kids, you're like, okay, first thing you're going to do is this. And we're always communicating stories.
Right.
And so throughout our life. And so you bring this method, as you talked about, this Aristotle structure, into how not just to tell your story, but also how to curate and craft the story.
Right.
So that potency is more pointed, right? It's more pointed when you tell the story.
Right.
I love that what you do is not just for your own benefit and success, but it is working out towards others, which, as women of faith, that certainly is our foundation, right? We do to take care of our own, but we also want to help other people.
Yeah.
And so helping others to find their voice, because it's there, and how to amplify that, and then how to distribute it, how to share it,
Right.
is very powerful. I'm thinking, as you're such a distinguished professor, and you travel, and you've had award-winning films and documentaries. How do you start to even find a story? Where do you find these stories? How do you start to find a story or a message that
there's a story everywhere. So one of the persons you live out here, I've had the access to is a guy by the name of Dick Wolf. You know him because he's created, Law and Order, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, all the Law and Orders in the world. He's considered the king of procedurals, and procedurals work because there's always a new story. For those of you that don't know, all of those episodes, all 21 years worth, are ripped from the headlines of papers and what happens in life. And so your story is anything that resonates with you. You live in an intriguing world, or you decide to create a world, right? And then you have to, I always tell students not to be blasphemous. You are the God of the world that you create on paper. So meaning you have to create what the rules of the world are, right? So what world do you live in? I live in what rom-com world, right? I think given enough time, if God allows me to stay here, I definitely will be moving in the rom-com. I love romantic comedies, right? I'm okay with fantasy as well. I am a Game of Thrones, House of Dragons, Harry Potter, Star Trek. I am I do like the sci-fi and the fantastical world, but I like to create worlds that are reflective of who I am and the people I know. One of my dear friends from since I was 18, Malcolm Lee, who did The Best Man. Part of the reason why The Best Man works is because Malcolm created this world and characters. Yes, he's pulling from himself, but I can easily see some people that we know and a little bit of all of his characters, right? So, but that's where for me, that's where I start. From a scripted standpoint. From a non-scripted, I think about the issues that mean a lot to me. I'm now working on, with Martin Luther King III on 2 projects. One is called Pilgrim, which takes a look at his parents when they go to India to study Gandhi's nonviolent movement. And of course, be inspired and come back and enact that here. Now that's a feature doc. And the other one is Protect and Serve, which is more of an anthology about when people say law and order and protect and serving, what are they really saying, right? Mm. And unfortunately, in America's climate, there's a lot of polarity to that. And so taking a look at what that means. What does it mean in LA? What does it mean in Fulton County, Georgia? What does that mean in New York? How people approach law enforcement and how can we change? Those kind of things matter to me. Voting rights matter to me. I'm not the Nat Geo person, although I'm a huge fan. I'm not gonna, I'm not getting down there with whales and sharks. I'm not doing that. Although there is a woman here, African-American woman, who does. Her name is Dr. Wynn Grant, and she's doing a lot of documentaries with Nat Geo. They're here in Santa Barbara around our ecosystem. But you find stories that are relatable, and you want to do what resonates for you, and that comes in a lot of different packages. So.
Yeah. Wendy, when you say what resonates with you, it makes me think of people that say, how do I find my purpose? Mm-hmm. Why am I here? Right. So the first question we often ask is, who am I? Mm-hmm. And then, why am I here? Right. What do I have and what can I do? And how do these work together? And so you talk about, what resonates with you. And I understood what you mean as being the quote God of this world that you create, because you're actually a creator.
You're a creator.
And, I believe that God is a creator, he created me. And so then because innately within the DNA is the ability to create, to think, to innovate, and to create. And so the story then becomes a little creation that I create. I want to tell this theme. I'm going to target my message. See, I've been learning just in these few minutes. And so the characters, they evolve and develop through the story. And it's powerful, but it's also complex too, Wendy, because, one situation, one scenario, people are different. Their experiences, how we not just cognitively think and associate information, whether associatively, I should say, or abstractly, right? But it's also, Wendy saw the same thing I saw.
Right.
We responded differently. Like, so I confess, I'm in a movie and, there's a sad moment or someone passes or someone's hurt. I will be the one with and people turn and look, and I'm thinking to myself, how can you not be teary-eyed right now? That's what I'm thinking, because I'm in my moment. Right. But that's not to say that it's not as salient to the person next to me who doesn't have a little tissue, who doesn't shed a tear, because they may be internalizing. And so as, I'm thinking as a filmmaker, you're creating things and you're making these stories, and the results are going to be as varied as the people who are in this audience, and how they're internalizing it, so that's a hard thing. It's like, how do you think of the story of the sower, like that's sowing this seed right into different grounds. There are different people in that theater that are there, and I'm with you on the rom-coms.
I love them.
We love, a happy ending. It's girl, like whatever, that it's happy and something happens. But, I noticed too, even in those movies, there is a moment of sadness and the disappointment and the setback, because that's life. And, I know that all of us, as we live our lives, we're going to have setbacks. We're going to have disappointments. Wendy, can you share with us some things that have, don't have to go as personal, but just maybe some setbacks in the project you're working on or something expectation-wise that you had that it didn't happen for you. What did you do in those moments? And maybe to encourage us who have those moments as well, what can we do in those moments of setback or disappointment?
So that's interesting. So the gubernatorial race between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, I wanted to document. And at the time I called it, well, I forgot what the name I called it, but anyway, I started on the documentary. I was self-funding it. I did call on some of my friends as investors to kind of get it moving. No one in the world, this is before the rest of the world knew who Stacey Abrams was. And so we were on her campaign trail, and she was going against another woman named Stacey when she won the primary. We've done all of that, and the closer and closer we got to the election, I started seeing more and more cameras on the campaign trail, right? I saw Yoruba Richin, who was doing She Could Be Next, who Yoruba just won a Peabody Award. I saw just all these cameras, and what I realized was that, okay, are we all doing the same story? And then completely, and I own this, completely and totally intimidated by You Could Be Next because it was being executive produced by Ava DuVernay. You have to understand what that represents, and that represents access and funding, and I was, not that that's not an indie film, because they did an amazing job, and it wasn't just about Stacey Abrams. It was about a group of women that were all running in 2018. But I got this call from my mentor, and he was executive producer of my film, saying Stacey Abrams is doing her own documentary. Now, when I started with Stacey wasn't doing her own documentary. But this documentary, she did have a camera on the bus and everywhere she was in places that her team wasn't granting us access to. And with documentaries, documentaries are subjective, so you need to be as close to the source as possible. We were kind of we interviewed her and a lot of the people associated with that particular campaign. But when I got so sad. I got so sad because I wanted to be the first one to be able to release this doc, that I literally sat on the couch. But I don't know. I think Maynard let me sit on the couch for 4 days without bathing.
Oh man,
I was so sad, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" This is like, well, I feel like poached my story and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, pivot. So my mentor calls me, Sam Pollard calls and says, and I'm like, but Sam, we were there first and they never said, oh God. He listened to me whine. And he said, if you just sit back long enough, a new story will, or something additional is going to be added to that. So I had to pivot from that story. It was no longer about Georgia, but now it's really about the suppression of the vote, and people not understanding what voter suppression really is and how the birth of it really has to do with the Dobbs case which is the Voting Rights Act that was gutted by Chief Justice John Roberts. And so that, and then my pastor, Raphael Warnock, was running for U.S. Senator, and then Asaf, who had worked on as a little kid, a toddler, he and his parents worked on my father-in-law's, Maynard Jackson's campaign. Feels like 100 years ago. We have a picture of John Asaf holding a Vote Maynard sign. So adorable. Anyway, so I recrafted that story, but I was depressed. I was so sad. I can just see myself just sitting there with the remote control and no bath. And then finally, you smell yourself, like literally. And, God spoke to my heart, and I knew that something was changing and he was giving me something else. And so my way of handling that, it was like, okay, pity party's over. Nobody cares about your tears. You've sunk money into this. Keep going. And so we're still filming, right? Because America has changed. It's changing at such a rapid rate that it informs a lot of different decisions, and we're documenting that. So I'm really fortunate to have Sam Pollard executive producing, my friend Elisa Gambino co-directing this with me, Malcolm Lee executive producing, Holly Sorensen's executive producing. So what I've done is create a team, right? Because it's not an I, it's a we. To do this story that we hope will make sense. In Florida, I won't even get on my soapbox about Florida.
How many soapboxes can we have?
Saying that I expect their state government to do. Oh my God, I can't even vacation in Florida right now. I expect their state government to do, since they want to rewrite history and tell alternative, non-facts, is finding a way to educate the young. And unless he's going to have a satellite that blocks access of public broadcasting or access to streaming, interesting enough, the truth always follows the path of least resistance to get to where it needs to be. And my thing is, if I can, with my work, inspire that one person to get off the couch, create the story, create some insight, and it gets to another person that becomes a change maker, then I've really done my job, right?
Yeah.
And I am deeply inspired by the works of Ava DuVernay and Sam Pollard and Stanley Nelson and Yoruba Richin and Gita Gandabir and titans that I believe in this space. Alex Gibney of subjective documentary filmmaking. And so,
well, we're inspired as well, by the greats of Wendy Eley Jackson.
I don't even understand why.
A formidable storyteller, and authentic truth. To say that, yes, there are moments when you have disappointments. You want the curtains closed,
the
lights off, and there are moments where you just want to be, like you said, sit on the sofa and muddle a bit, And it's interesting because people think, oh, you just have to get over it. But there was a time, also in biblical texts where King had lost his son, and he didn't eat, drink. He covered himself in, a cultural ritual of sackcloth and ashes. He was given the time to mourn.
Yeah.
But then, in the words of Maynard, you got to pivot. Right? Then it was like, okay, we've got to go on. And it's interesting, Wendy, that, sometimes the disappointments and the setbacks, because we see things from the, the direction that we were headed, right? The focal point. But when we sit back, we can get a different perspective. And so that actually pivoted you into seeing another potential story to share, that we have to say that you probably wouldn't have seen it had you not had the setback, right? So it's sometimes, we view setbacks as, okay, this is no. Sometimes it's just to help us kind of change directions. That sometimes all the detours in life are not bad. They're actually taking us around the traffic, speaking of Atlanta, or taking us away from something that's being constructed, not because we're constructing it, but someone else is. And so if we go, we could fall into that ditch. And so, it's okay if we're disappointed, to say that again. But we do have to have that moment where we come back, because we are resilient and we are resourceful. And I love that you have a team. You have people that can speak into your life, just as you speak into others' lives, that say, yes, but there's something more. Like that gift that's in you is beyond this one opportunity, is beyond someone else who's picked up on this idea. There's so much more, and there's so many other perspectives and facets to look through and to tell the story. And I love that. Wendy, what would you say has really guided your life? You had to think of 2 or 3 things that have guided your life. What would those things be?
The Word of God first.
Mm.
I'm a creative, so I cry. My father.
Mm. Mm.
He has been gone 11 years. He made his transition 11 years ago. And my Aunt Jeanette. My mom died when I was 12, and my mom's sister stepped up. You got me crying. I feel like you're Barbara Wawa.
Oh no.
You know?
We will be in the theater together, Wendy, and it's so good. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, the Word of God it's all I have.
Yeah.
This is not me being religious.
Mm.
I strongly believe in those 66 books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although they say there are more.
Right.
And I believe in what folks call as karma, and it's seed time harvest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Word of God, my father and my Aunt Jeanette, I can hear her say, don't be ugly. as our elders say, don't be ugly.
Yes.
Or I can hear my father saying, there are consequences to everything.
Mm.
Figure out the consequences first, and then choose, right? There's a woman by the name of Dr. Jane Smith, who I miss a lot. She was a big leader at Spelman College, and she made her transition a couple of years ago. But she said life is about options, choices, and consequences. And I live by that. So everything that I do, my father was a pilot, but he was a storyteller. I realized the older I get, my kids are like, you sound like Papa Eley. And I was just like, I feel like that's a good thing. As a storyteller, Jesus was a storyteller, right? That's where we get these parables.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like I'm in good company. But those are the voices in my head. I hear a lot. The person that can control their tongue can control their whole body, right?
Yeah, that's right. The tongue.
And that tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And so often I hear, I've been in the middle of conversations and I'm just ready to go in, say what's on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I can hear the Holy Spirit within me say, nobody asked to hear what was on your mind. It's inconsequential if it's not reflective of me. So don't waste your energy, because then you'd be sowing a seed into eternity that will come back to you. So be careful what you say. Don't put your mouth on other people. Right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
Wow.
So I literally practice that. There's so many days. Now I can say that I can say whatever I want to with my husband. But even in that, God will speak through him and offer a rebuke lovingly. But I'm like, okay, he can make me feel really small, really fast if I'm not behaving. I try to behave. I'm not perfect, but I'm a very, as my daughter would say, I'm very self-aware. I'm trying to live like that.
Yeah, Miss Amber. She's her mom's light. She
Mhm.
is. Um, God first, absolutely. Master creator.
Yeah.
Jesus, a skillful storyteller, very relevant, always to his audience, speaking messages under heavenly themes, divine principle to
Mhm.
all who heard, and they can relate, right?
Yeah,
Bankers, business persons, farmers, shepherds,
totally.
uh, even children,
Right.
even children. Powerful example. And then your father, yes, he was a pilot, a renowned pilot with the Tuskegee Airmen. Certainly a lot of the things that he learned, he instilled in you and your mom and your aunt. You're gonna have me saying that. But I something you said your dad said, and this is so true. Figure out the consequences first.
Yeah.
Right. So you have these options, as you were talking about, Professor Smith. You have these options. You have choices. And
Yeah.
often we just say, I want to do this.
Right.
We don't think critically. We don't,
Right.
because critical thinking will help you get to the consequences. Like
Yes.
you have to weigh these things all out. Okay, if I do
Absolutely.
A, what's going to happen? If I do B, we don't do that, Wendy. We say A feels good.
But I want to, and I have the right to, and I'm going to treat her the way she treat me. No.
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 You treat people the way you want to be treated. Well, I don't care, but yeah, somebody else does. You do care.
You do.
You do care. Everyone cares.
Yeah.
You know, success stories. It doesn't matter if you are a business executive, a salesperson, a consultant, public speaker, you know, if you give presentations, you know, you have to consider recipients of the words that come from your mouth, right?
Absolutely.
You know, when someone takes any time to pay you or your company, whether you know it or not, it's not really a business decision, it's an emotional decision. Why is it an emotional decision? Because people are typically attached to more than love, people are attached to money. Right? So my job, because I believe well-told stories accomplish a multitude of benefits, my job is to inspire you, educate you, entertain you, hold your interest as a listener or reader, um, create those strong connections between an audience, right, and the storyteller, and find ways to deliver information in a simpler, more involving way than just facts and figures and diagrams. And by doing and coupling all those things together, what happens is you move people to action because they all achieve one powerful goal, and which is that they give listeners and readers an emotional experience of success.
Mm. Mm. So powerful, Wendy, that we are driven in general by emotions, how we feel, even the deal, right? So it says people do business with people that they like.
Right.
Well, the liking part is really an emotional, like, have you connected with this person? Was there something that resonated, as you said earlier, with in their story to you of what their product could do or service could do, but it had to connect with you on an emotional level. And then you said, okay, I think I'm willing to invest, right? Whatever the cost is for the product or the service. But the connection happens really with something that is intangible.
For
And
sure.
that is a story and an emotion that's attached. And I hope you're doing good business too, right? For those watching, certainly.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me say this. Every story ever told, written, or shown on stage or screen is built on a foundation of really three essential elements: character, desire, and conflict. That's life.
Character, desire, and conflict. I'm taking note. Write this down. This is it.
So in every movie or TV episode, every novel, short story, play, opera, fairy tale, a character or characters want to achieve something, some compelling goal, and they have to overcome difficult obstacles to do so. That's just like real life. When people talk about purpose, what do I want to do? Really, they have to go inward and say, what's my why? Not my what. Why do you want to be a lawyer? Because I fundamentally believe that there's justice for all. Now, you understand your why, so what do you want to do? I want to become a lawyer. There are things that will get it. There's money. It takes discipline. It takes testing. It takes, there's a bar. There's a big test you have to pass after that. But those are extra, and then not to mention all the things that happen to your personal life. I was driving to school or driving to work and my car broke down. Didn't realize I didn't manage my money. Now I'm got an NF. There's all these obstacles. But life is about moving towards the thing that you want, and you discover the things that you need.
Okay, you're gonna have to repeat that. You have to repeat that again.
Life is about moving towards the things that you want, all the while you're discovering the things that you need. My dad used to say, I used to say things like, but I need a guest watch. And my dad says, I need or want? It's a need. No, a guest watch. And this is in the 80s. A guest watch is not a need. The need is you need some device to help you tell time, but it doesn't have to be the guest watch. I really want a Sprinter. I don't need a Sprinter. I just need a car to get me back and forth to where I need to go. But I need to carry a surfboard and my dog and my kids and my husband and have a little, no, those are wants. What do you need? And in doing so, it's telling about our character. It tells us about our desires. The conflict, though, helps us build character. Good character, bad character. But conflict builds character. So therein lies the power of story, right? It gives us enough emotional experience outside the bounds of our everyday life. So we can laugh, we can cry, or we can get scared, fall in love, tap our hidden powers because we are inhabiting the stories that we hear. We're the ones having these adventures, facing the obstacles, just as the characters do. So the way I believe the approach is, you have to know structure. People know when things are off in storytelling. You have to know structure. And I figured out when I moved to California, I know why I'm here. I am here to seed a vineyard of storytellers. Doesn't matter, it doesn't mean entertainers, just storytellers. The politicians that you love, you're in love with them because they tell amazing stories with charisma. You love Clinton, you forgave Clinton for all of his little bad behavior. I do like Clinton because he's an excellent storyteller. Truth be told, we love Barack Obama and Michelle Obama because they have a transparent way of telling amazing stories with love and empathy. And so to your viewers, doesn't matter the story that you want to tell. I don't care if you're a dog catcher or an underwater basket weaver, there's purpose to it. When I go in my office on campus, I try to talk to everybody, the people doing the lawn, the people emptying the trash, because without them, my levels of anxiety and my environment will not be in a place where I can create. But they keep everything at bay so I can create. One is interdependent on the other. And I think if people realize that, the manager of the grocery store, the person that's bagging your grocery, they've made your life a little better with their act of service. Even if people say that's what you're paid to do, but that's still a service. You need to honor them and respect them for showing up to be that service. Otherwise, bag your own grocery and take it to you.
He says you respect every essential part and person
Absolutely.
of the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Of the system that it takes. And I agree. I've been where I've seen persons, these pallets they come out in the store and they're offloading and stacking the shelves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because what we do is complain. There's nothing on the shelf. Where's my such and such? Thank the people who are putting the items on the shelf. You can't get to the loading dock where it's coming off, but you can at least thank the people who are doing the work and thank the cashiers. And yes, Wendy, you're correct. Okay, you said so many different things that I was taking notes. So I do want to go back to this. The character, desire, and the conflict. Those are the three major components because every person is trying to overcome an obstacle to achieve what their goal is, to get the girl, to get the job, to stop the crooks, to rescue the kids. And as you said, it's an inward why. And I'm glad you talked about it. It's what's on the inside. It's the why. That's the first thing. Why? And we ask these questions. Conflict builds character. This is true. Character is built by time over test.
Yes.
That's over time, right? You go through some things. So even the people that we get mentored by or coached by, they've been through some things. Yep. And people think, well, I don't know everything they've been through. And again, that's a personal story, right? A personal experience that they share with a certain circle of trust. I'm not telling everybody. You're not telling everybody everything. Right. But you do need to have a circle, small, someone or someone's that you can trust to speak into your life, but that you also can speak to. So this reciprocity of relationship of pouring in and pouring out, pouring in and pouring out. That's important. And you talked about the interdependence. That's how we're created. We depend on the earth, the soil, things that come from the soil, things that flow into the soil for us to live. And so that's why it's important that we protect, that we nourish and cherish and guard our environment physically.
Absolutely.
But also as human beings, our circle of friends, as I was talking about. Life is about moving towards things that you want while discovering the things that you need. Ooh. That's a threadable, tweetable, tweetable, Ms. Jackson. I'm telling you. And that's so important to know your structure and to, as you said, your why. I love this because you're in California. It's to plant seeds in vineyards. I love it. You're planting these students in the vineyards. Wendy, what would the woman that you are today say to the girl that you were?
It's going to be okay.
Okay.
I would say it's going to be okay. Things will happen. The scripture, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. The key word there is walk through. The only way you can get stuck is to stop walking through. Right? So your goal is to try to maximize a positive emotional experience by skillfully asking yourself two questions. What just happened? How do I get out of this? What can I do to either allow this experience to happen again or not happen again? And draw that connection, that testimonial connection for your own testimony, right? If you want to replicate success. You have to walk through some things. And so I would tell younger Wendy, feel free to cry. Crying is a good thing. It helps us purge. I would tell Wendy to forgive quickly. Forgiveness is not really for the other person as much as it is for you. Peace and chaos do not live in the same place. They cannot occupy the same space. Forgive quickly. Love hard. Get knowledge. Get wisdom. Pray for wisdom. And no matter how it looks, I've had to live off of ramen noodles, and I've had steak and lobster, everything in between. It's gonna be okay. But walk through your trying times, understanding that it's in that moment that you're being made. That's where you're developing. I always ask my students the first day, I said, what's the difference between being nice and kind? And the difference is kindness can only be exhibited when conflict is in place. Kindness is a response without thinking or manipulation. Nice is who you choose to be at that moment and what drives you to do certain things. But kindness, Dr. April Ripley, you're one of the kindest persons I know.
Okay, don't make me cry. Because we will be over here crying. And
you're a kind woman. And I am thankful to your parents for meeting each other and bringing you and seeding the world so we can have more persons like you. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I have to recalibrate because you said so many things. The first is, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
You know, and because we always think this is the end of the world as we know it, right? Yeah. That's the song, but it's going to be okay. And our faith tells us, Wendy, that never have those who trusted in God been forsaken. So even in the depths of walking through this valley, I love you said it, keep walking. Walk through. There it is, the expectation that if you walk through, one, you have the ability to walk through, two, that you'll be through to the other side, what the outcome will be. You're going to be okay.
Yes.
God is with you. Yes, love hard, forgive. It's okay to cry. Yeah. Trust me, recently, I just seen, and you talk about storytelling. I was at a humanitarian event in Geneva, and I am the host and facilitator speaking in between. And so there was a video of a project in Africa with water. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there and I feel my eyes begin to swell. And you know how you're trying to keep,
yes,
composure. This is a group of persons around the world, who's who and all this. And when I got back to the mic after it played, I felt my voice shake. And I was like, you know what? In this moment, it's okay. And I cried, and I didn't know that crying, as a matter of fact, I had to kind of turn it over. At first I was like, I had to turn it over because I needed that moment really to take it in. But the way the timing of the program, I didn't have that. And when I came back, and at the end, I came back to the mic and I finished off everything that needed to be done. Wendy, so many people came up to me in that moment, male and female, and said, when I saw you crying, I cried too. I felt that, but I didn't know if I could express that emotion. Mm-hmm. And I needed to release that. I needed to connect. And it showed me a part of myself, some things that I've been looking. And so I say that to say, to your point, that when you love hard, when you forgive, you never know who is looking to you or looking at you for the release that they need. Yeah. Because sometimes we go before and people look to us, yes, as role models, but also to see, like, Wendy said she cried. So it's okay that I cry. It's nothing wrong with me feeling this.
No.
Getting knowledge and wisdom and certainly praying for it. Oh, that's so important. When you don't know what to do, when you don't know what choice you should make, even when the consequences seem very similar, there's still that which one should I take?
Yeah,
moment.
for sure.
And the fact that you talked about kindness and nice, I literally have been in these conversations about the difference and just remembering the words of Mother Teresa. And she says, of all the things in the world that you can be kind. And so there is a difference. And kindness is something that I think is a part of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saying that it's wrong. Like people's like, well, I tried to be nice, so we're not saying that's wrong, but we're just saying that sometimes there's a deeper level.
Yes.
Kindness goes deeper to that. Yeah. And, as blessed as you are to say that I'm in your life, I am truly blessed to be a part of your life, to have you in my life as well. And just grateful to your parents for what they instilled in you, and to encourage other parents, whether your parents are with you for a long time or maybe not as long as you would have liked.
Mm-hmm.
The power of what they instill in us through storytelling and through character building and the saying, like you said, your dad said, I know those swatches. Oh yes, lady. I wanted a red, yellow, and that red, yellow, and blue one, but you just need a timepiece. They help you with perspective. And so those are things that are foundational to who we are. And wow, Wendy, you are living the exceptional life. And I would ask you what that means to you, but I think you've shared it all when you spoke to your younger self and speaking to us even now, to remind us to love in peace and chaos. I love that. Peace and chaos cannot live together.
Cannot.
Choose peace.
Choose peace.
Choose peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they exhibit the nature of God, the love of God. Yes. So we are blessed. Wendy Eley Jackson. Oh my goodness, I am so honored today. I am full. We're from the South, so I'd say I'm full to hear. My heart is full. My spirit is lifted. Thank you so much for sharing your authentic self.
Thank you
for the work that you're doing to tell stories, but also to plant those seeds in many vineyards. And so our blessing, our prayer for you and Auburn Avenue Films and all the things that are in your heart to do, that God will give you the provision for this great vision that he's placed in you, that your territory will be enlarged, your influence, but also the impact of what you do. Yes, through storytelling, but more importantly, through the lives that will be touched and impacted by your love, by your kindness, and also by your truth telling. And we celebrate you, and I honor you for whose you are to God, but also for who you are as this phenomenal, awe-inspiring woman of God who's so gifted and so blessed and so humble. You really are, Wendy. And humility is not thinking less of yourself, but is thinking of yourself less, because you're always giving to other people. But I pray that you will also be watered as you water others. So thank you for being a part of this journey and this edition of Storytelling with Exceptional Living. Love you so much. Yeah. God bless you. Thank you so much, Wendy.
God bless. Bye.
Wow, I tell you, Exceptional Living, we were truly honored today to have as our special guest Wendy Eley Jackson. And I'm telling you that this is certainly one to continue watching. And as she named out all these great producers and all this, she is of the great. Yes, yes, yes. So I hope you're encouraged today. If you have a story to tell, how to start to look at the story that you want to tell. What's your message? What's the theme? Remembering character, desire, and conflict. And reminding you that in the world that we live in, we are conditioned often to just fit in. But know that you, yes, you were created to stand out. You are unique by design to live an exceptional life. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And God bless.